Hello, my name is Koran Latikra. Welcome to Power and Pounders Drum Magazine, and I am here at In the Groove Studios here in Santa Ana, California. And it's a nice day today. You know, it's California. What can we say, right? So, but it's good to be back. It's been a while since I've done some interviews. I think since November was my last interview, and appreciate the patience. If you're new to the channel, just hit the subscribe button and make that little bell ring. I think it's a bell. I think so. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for your patience. Hope everyone's doing good through this whole COVID-19 craziness, and looks like there's some vaccines and all that stuff. So things are starting to open back up a little bit, at least in California. And so I know that Disneyland is opening back up. So all you Californians can go to Disneyland. And actually my next guest, who I will mention in a minute, as soon as I finish talking, you can probably hear him laughing in a little bit, but it's just good to be back. As Aerosmith would say, I'm back in the saddle again. I guess in my case, I'm back in the chair again. So it's good to have this platform, and it's just good to be back. So my next guest, it's a pleasure. I've met him a couple years ago. He's an extraordinary drummer. I put a link down on some of on the YouTube channel, some of his videos and so forth. But I want to welcome Mr. Jimmy Ford. What's going on, bro?
Hello, how you doing? And thank you for having me on.
Hey,
Corey.
like I say, I recognize that shirt.
Yeah, I wonder where I got that from.
Looks like yours is a little darker than mine. I don't know.
It's got to be the lighting.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
You know why it's a little darker than yours? Because I haven't washed it yet.
Oh, well, I got a few more I can give you if you need them.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I've known Jimmy for about 4 or 5 years now. We played together a couple of times at a fellowship called Shuva Israel. It's a Jewish Messianic fellowship in Irvine, and
right.
So yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. But
okay.
How you doing, man? You've been doing good through all this crazy COVID, and how you been?
Yeah, I've been doing really good. It's speaking of COVID. I wanted to let everybody know out there concerning the COVID situation is that my wife Fori and I did contract COVID, but apparently when we had it, it made us very sick, obviously. I had the cough, and I had the low energy and low grade fever until it caught up to me, and it really was like kind of full blown where I had the really bad flu. But it was only for about 3 or 4 days, and then I came out of it. It's the same thing with my wife Fori. Same thing. She got real sick with it about 2 or 3 days or so, and then she came out of it, and we're fine. Okay. And so apparently I've built up the antibodies that we need to have to fight this off. Some of us weren't so fortunate. I've had a couple of friends of ours that left us because of their immune system being down, which was due to having pneumonia. And that took them out. On the other hand, another friend of mine, another musician friend of mine, just got out of the hospital for being in the hospital for a month, had pneumonia, had COVID, and I spoke to him just yesterday, and he's doing fine.
Oh, great.
So,
okay.
So it all depends. Not to be a rebel rouser or anything. But people ask me, did you get vaccinated? Did you get vaccinated? And I kind of tell them, I said, yes, I've been vaccinated 58 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's no joke, folks. I mean, it is what it is. I'll tell you this. I haven't had a flu shot. Last time I had a flu shot was 1980 was the last time I took a flu shot. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 58 now, coming up on 58, and I'm fine. I had an accident at my workshop last year, and I cut my thumb really bad. So a friend of mine rushed me over to Kaiser. They patched me up. You know, they put the derma glue on it because I had to hold it. You know,
yeah.
and you know it was bleeding profusely, pretty bad. And then you know they tell you to add pressure to it, right?
Yeah.
So add pressure to it. And the doctor said I did a really good job because the cells were already mending. And the nurse, you know, they have my medical record. They said, well, Mr. Ford, it's time for you to get your tetanus shot. Okay. It's been over, I'd say 7 years, 8 years or so. Great. Give it to me.
Yeah.
She said, you'll feel soreness in your arm. Okay. She gave me the shot, which I did. And I kid you not, this tetanus shot took me down for a week.
Wow.
So that tells me, and everybody's different. That tells me that now, chemically or whatever that's going on with where I'm at in life, the stage of my age or what have you, I've become more sensitive to certain things like vaccines and so forth, and allergic to certain things like, you know, laundry soap. You know, I was using this commercial laundry soap, and all of a sudden I break out. So now I can't use that. Yeah. So there's, you know, or toothpaste or what have you. Yeah. So I think as you get older, your body starts to say, wait a minute, hold it. We can't load up on that because we're sensitive to it. Now we have an allergic reaction. So that's what happened with this tetanus shot. So I put 2 and 2 together and said, well, looks like I'm going to have to be very careful what I put into my body.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But other than that,
great advice, man. That's great advice.
You know, because everybody's different. You know, listen, I say to everyone, folks, the choice is yours. You know, you do what you're led to do, and the choice is yours. Yeah. I'm just saying for myself, you know, that choice would not be, that would not help me because of my situation, you know. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it at that. And
everybody's different, man. I mean, you know, I technically, like you said, I haven't had a flu shot, you know, and so it's like, why would I need to get the vaccine? I mean, that's just me.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
I think when I was a kid, I had, you know, the measles, chicken pop shots and all that.
Oh, sure.
When I was in elementary school. You know?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's something that everybody just has to just kind of pray through and, you know.
Exactly. So, exactly. It's your choice. It's your choice. God did not create robots. You know, he gave you a brain to think with.
Exactly.
He gave you instincts to listen to. That inner voice that you're hearing is him talking to you. So, but you know, you do what's best for yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, you know, I just the other day I Googled your name.
Oh, gosh.
Don't worry, good stuff came up. Don't worry.
Praise God.
You're not wanted for any arrest.
Not yet, anyway. I better hurry up and get caught up with my taxes.
Well, you know, because what I saw, you know, a little bit of your bio, and what stood out is that it said that you had been playing drums since you were 3.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, 3 years out of the womb, you coming out rocking, man. It's like, wow, that's crazy. 3 years out of the womb, he's just rocking away.
Yeah.
So tell me how all that started, man. How did you get started playing at 3, and you know, how did that all lead up to that, to where you are?
All right, it'll be my pleasure. Well, I was 3 years old. My grandmother noticed that I had a gift for playing drums. Mm-hmm. And she told my mother, she said, Devera, she said, that boy is a drummer. And so my mother said to my grandmother, you really think so? She says, yeah, check him out. So one year for Christmas, I was about 3 years old. They got me a little snare drum, a little drum.
Yeah.
And I beat the heck out of it. I mean, I literally beat the heck out of it. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you tear it up the first day you got it?
Oh, probably. I had, beaten the living crap out of this thing. And and so I have this is my
okay.
my dog Lily. Say hello,
Oh.
Lily. Say hi, Lily. Hi, Lily. Yeah. Okay. She wants to cuddle now. Are you enjoying this interview? Okay. All right. My biggest fan right here, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right, Lily.
Yeah, she's a Shih Tzu. She's awesome.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'm 3 years old playing this drum, and I tore this thing up. And I had an uncle who was a drummer in the family, which was my grandmother's youngest brother. Anyway, we'll get to that. So anyway, I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I think it was with the help of my grandmother and my mother, they bought me a drum set.
Okay.
And it was my first drum set ever. It was she bought it from a store back east from EJ Corvettes, and it was a gold sparkle kit, and it had a tom tom, a snare drum, bass drum, a cymbal, and some contraption for a foot pedal. You know, and I do believe the heads were made out of, I don't know, man, some type of cardboard or paper at the time.
Sandpaper?
I don't know. This is 1967. Yeah,
Okay.
1967.
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
and so it was Christmas time, and I woke up Christmas, and there were the drums all sprawled out under the tree.
Wow.
And I asked my mother, I'm 5 years old, and I said, Mom, why did Santa Claus bring me a drum set? Because she said, Santa knows you're a very special boy. Like, oh, okay. So my mother didn't know how to set up the drums.
Yeah.
So apparently I knew how to set up a set of drums. I mean, I think at that time I was looking at the Sears catalog.
Yeah. The J.C. Penney catalogs.
J.C. Penney catalog.
I'm familiar with that one.
Right, looking at the drums and wishing, oh my gosh, I'd love to have these drums, and looking at the photos, how they set them up, and you know. So my mom went into the kitchen to prepare whatever it was she was preparing, food, and she said within 5 to 6 minutes, I had that drum set set up.
Wow. And
I was jamming. And so so she would put records on of the day, pop music or whatever she used to listen to. Yeah. I mean, everything from, you know, Sam and Dave to Aretha Franklin to Barbra Streisand. Wow. To, you know, whatever jazz, whatever music she was into. Yeah. We played a lot of R&B in my household.
Okay.
My mom liked R&B, but she also liked pop. She also played, believe it or not, Burt Bacharach, you know, and I became very familiar with Bacharach's music. So a lot of that stuff was played in my household. My huge support in this equation was my grandmother, because my grandmother was a huge fan of jazz, swing, and big band music. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So I had an uncle who was a great jazz drummer, and I would go to Huntington, Long Island. I'm originally from Long Island, New York.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say where you from.
Yeah, okay. I was born in Amityville. Okay. No, not the Amityville horror.
Not the haunted house.
Yeah, it's actually a beautiful home, by the way. But my uncle lived in Huntington, and he was a drummer from way back, and I used to go to my cousin's house in Huntington, Long Island, and I would get bored playing with them. And I knew that my uncle lived up the street. So I'd walk up the street, knock on the door. My Aunt Joan at the time would open the door, and she would let me in. And I would somehow go down the stairs, because she knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Go down the stairs, and it was dark, man. And I'm like this little guy trying to look around to see if I could find a light switch somewhere. And then I bumped into something, and then I heard one of the cymbals go, because my uncle had sizzle cymbals, and I used to love to play those things and watch the little rivets bounce up and down. Yeah, and I found it. So I guess the sunlight from the basement window was shining, and I said, "Well, that's good enough." And I found myself behind his drum kit, wailing away on his drums. he comes home because he didn't like anybody playing his instruments. You know? And I'm wailing away, and he's like, "Hey, who's down there playing on my drums?" He pulled the curtain back, and he saw that was me because he knew I loved playing drums. He knew I had the love for the instrument, and so he flicked on the light switch, put a record on, and man, as soon as the record was on, it was time to play.
Wow.
So he was a huge influence on me as far as drumming and music. And being introduced to jazz by him, but also his sister, my grandmother, and I also studied with him for a little period of time. I mean, he showed me how to hold the sticks. Traditional grip. He showed me how to play a shuffle.
Okay.
I took some lessons from him. He loved Max Roach. Max Roach was his guy.
Okay.
Max Roach was his guy. Loved Max Roach. I mean, this guy could sit down at my crappy set of drums that I had. I had another set, a U.S. Mercury, Red Sparkle, but he made them sound like they were $1 million.
Yeah.
Because he had the touch and the feel. Yeah. You know, and he would sit down and play a solo, and I swear you close your eyes and you could swear you were listening to Max Roach.
Wow.
He loved Max Roach, but we would get into these arguments who was better, because I like Buddy Rich. He liked Max Roach, and I said, no, Buddy Rich has got the chops. He's faster, you know. He says, no, Buddy Rich, no, man. Buddy Rich don't play with no soul, man. You gotta check out. And you know, because that was his man, and we'd laugh about that. We had some rivalry there, but we'd laugh, and we talk about guys like Gene Krupa and Louis Bellson, and he introduced me to Miles Davis.
Okay, yeah.
And Miles Davis, and then I learned about Philly Joe Jones.
Wow.
And Gene Ammons. Okay. And and he also loved R&B. Like early '70s, late '60s, early '70s, like Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
The whole funk era.
The whole funk thing, man. James Brown, of course. A lot of that was played in my household. So that's pretty much how I got started with playing drums. You know, my grandmother was definitely not only an influence, but she was a great support and me playing drums and taking me to my drum lessons.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did you have, like, besides your uncle, did you have formal lessons with any well-known teachers in your area, or was there? Because back, at least when I grew up, I don't think we couldn't find any teachers hardly in North Carolina, where I'm from.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So in New York, I'm thinking, Rhode Island, I'm thinking, you had to have some type of.
Well, I think it all has to do,
especially back then.
Yeah, I think it all has to do with the demographic back then.
Yeah.
Because being from New York has always been and will always be, and I miss it at times, I really do, will always be the mecca of jazz and music and Broadway and stage shows and particularly jazz. It will always be a mecca of that. And with that, there was a plethora of drum instructors, be it if you're playing legit classical or if you're playing rock or pop funk, and particularly jazz, was really the mecca for all that. And you had your pick, man. I mean, there were so many guys in New York, teachers that you could choose from. It was ridiculous. I mean, back in the day, you had guys like, so you had Billy Gladstone. You had guys like Henry Adler. You had guys like Joe Cusadas, who taught in New York. You had guys like Charlie Persip. I think he had students. Freddie Waits at the time when I was coming up had students. You had Sam Ulano, who was actually a great teacher, and he was the guy. If you wanted to learn how to read, he was the guy. Yeah. There was a lot of great teachers in New York. The teachers that I studied with, the drum instructors that I studied with in New York at the time, I had some local guys that I went to in Queens, Elmont, New York, where I grew up. I grew up in Queens, Jamaica, Queens, and the next town over was Nassau County, which was part of Long Island. I studied with a guy at a local music store in Elmont, New York, called Alden Music, and there was a teacher there that I studied with. But his thing, he got a real kick out of me watching me play the drums, man. I mean, he would put a record on, because that's how I started, learning how to play the music was by ear, was putting the record on and jamming the records. And he got a real kick out of me because he was like, man, this young guy has got the thing. He's got a gift, and he was teaching me how to read. So early on, I was learning how to read, but that was always tough for me. Reading drum music was always tough. That was always a struggle for me. But as I got older and I was in high school at the time, I went to music and art up on 135th Street and Convent Avenue, and I studied with the great Justin DiCiocio. And I decided that I was going to take private lessons. So I took private lessons with a guy in New York named Norm Grossman. And Norm Grossman was a percussionist of the, let me get this right, New York. I think he played for the New York Phil, and I think he also played for the New York Chamber Ensemble. So he was a very well-known percussionist and drum instructor in the New York metropolitan area. He also was teaching me how to read. He taught me about technique. He taught me, I think he was, aside from my uncle teaching me technique, because he studied with Jim Chapin, Norm Grossman was one of the teachers that was showing me the push-pull technique, which is now known as, I guess, the molar, or the I think it's called the molar, push-pull, the push-pull technique, that's very popular these days. So he was teaching me some of that, also reading. So I studied with Norm for a while, and then I just, was practicing to records. I practiced to as much music as I could possibly study. At the time, R&B, the James Brown thing. I loved listening to that. But my main thing was I gravitated towards the straight ahead jazz and swing and big band style of music. And that's always been my thing. I kind of call myself a closet funkster, for lack of better words. I love that music, but my forte was playing jazz. And I always had this saying, and I'm pretty sure a lot of guys would agree with me, that it's easier for jazz drummers to cross over to play rock than rock drummers who have been playing that style of music to play jazz, because of the way the eighth note is when you play jazz. When you play an eighth note in jazz, it's got that bouncy feel. It's almost got that shuffly feel to it. It's not as straight as in rock music, right? So for rock guys, and it's not their fault, man. It's for rock guys to cross over to learn how to play jazz music. It's harder for them.
It's harder,
I do have to say I have to give props to those who have become successful in crossing over from rock music to jazz that have done very well. But with that being said, I've always kind of leaned towards jazz big band music. I've also studied later on when I was in high school. I went to Drummers Collective when Drummers Collective was on 42nd Street and it's 42nd and Broadway, between 6th and Broadway at the time. It was right on 42nd Street, and I studied with the great Terry Silverlight, who's an amazing drummer. Great teacher. If you guys out there know his brother Barry Miles, which is a great keyboard player, and they had a group together, and that was like kind of the beginnings of the fusion era. That was part of that whole fusion thing that was happening in the 70s and the late 70s and the early 80s. And so Terry was a wonderful teacher. He was a great guy, very patient, and he's still out there doing it. He's still out there playing.
I was going to say, do you still keep in contact with a lot of these guys, or have you gone back to New York pre-COVID to play and anything?
Well, unfortunately, Norm Grossman is gone. My uncle is gone, But Terry Silverlight is still alive and well and still doing it, still composing. And we touch base on Facebook every once in a while. My percussion teacher in high school, Mr. Justin DiCiocio, we stay in touch via Messenger Facebook. One good thing about Facebook.
No, I still keep in contact with friends from Russia and Finland. And,
it's awesome, man. So I stay in touch with from time to time, and let's see. Then from high school, attending music and art, I went on to Scuffle. Had odd jobs when I was, a very young adult, but still practicing drumming and practicing. And it wasn't until this one night that there was this jazz club in my neighborhood, Gerald's, and I used to go see guys like Roy Haynes used to play at this place, Gerald's. It was on Linden Boulevard in Cambria Heights, Queens, and I used to go see jazz acts there. But at the time, I was not old enough to get in because the age at the time to get into clubs was 21. So I was like 17, 16, 17.
Because of the drinking?
Yeah, because of the alcohol.
Yeah.
I was 16, 17, and I would go to the side door. Sometimes they'd leave the side door open. Right. And I'm sure you've heard this story before. And I would kind of like listen and try to see what I could see and listen to what was going on outside. And sometimes it'd be cold, man. I'd be out there, but I didn't care because I was that dedicated because I wanted to see and hear these artists live music. Yeah. And that's how you learn. Well, I'm 18 years old now, and 18, 19, something like that. 18, 19 years old. And I go back to Gerald's, and there's this big band Tuesday nights that we rehearse. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fabulous. So they would leave the door open. Yeah. It was summertime because it's hot and humid in New York.
Exactly.
And this place, Gerald's, had sawdust on the floor. So I would stand outside and listen to this big band. Well, the leader of the big band, Ray Abrams, noticed me, and he came out for a smoke, and he said, hey, so I've been noticing you. Are you a musician? Do you play? And I said, yeah, I play drums.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, you play drums? I said, yeah. He said, do you read? So I said, yeah, I read a little bit. He said, you want to sit in? I said, oh my gosh, can I sit in? Wow. I was a nervous man. Wow. I was a nervous wreck. Yeah. It was like the Lord said, here's your chance. Yeah, get in there, like he gave me a swift kick. It's like, okay, you want to be a drummer? Here you go. Here's the opportunity. And so I sat down and played a chart. And
so they gave you a chart. They gave you a chart.
I mean, I couldn't really read that well. I was still learning, but somehow I got through it. And because I used my ears, because that's how I learned how to play, was playing by ear. And training my ear, I was able to get through the chart a little bit. Okay. But the guy sensed that I had good time and I could swing. Yeah. And so from that night on, Ray asked me, would I like to join the band? And I said, yes, I would. And Ray took me under his wing. And that was it, man. I was with the band for about 4 or 5 years playing in the band, and it was good training. It was good training.
First professional gig. Did you get paid for that, or?
Well, actually, that's funny that you mentioned that. My first professional gig was when I was 14, and I got called to play at this speakeasy in Astoria, Queens. Man, it was like a shaky neighborhood in Astoria, Queens, and that was my first. That was my first professional gig.
Yeah.
And, but I was, when I was 16, I was a participant of the Slingerland Louis Belson National Drum Contest.
Okay. I used to have a Slingerland kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
I had a Slingerland.
Me too. And so I entered the contest because everybody was doing it, and they wanted to become a star, famous, whatever. And I entered the contest, and I practiced like a madman. And Long story short, I came in third.
Oh.
And the reason being was because of reading. They put this chart in front of me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looked Greek to me, man. I couldn't make head nor tails out of it. I mean, I was, at the time, I'm reading single line snare drum parts. I'm not reading like tom tom and cymbal, bass drum and rack tom and floor tom. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But I came in third, and after all that, I did get a gig out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I would say it was one of two of my professional gigs that I had, and it was a group that was playing top 40 music at the time.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, I'll try my hand at this. And at the time, that wasn't the music I really wanted to play.
Yeah.
I wanted to play straight ahead jazz and big band.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to play Ladies Night.
Was it just pop music or R&B?
Yeah, it was top 40.
Pretty simple.
It was top 40 of the day. It was during the disco era.
Okay.
Like Celebration by Kool and the Gang.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Or,
it's not much to read on that one, man. That's just straight.
There was no reading on that one.
I know, that's just kind of straight there.
And playing some Shaka Khan tunes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And like pop music of the day, like it's Ladies Night and what's that tune? You Know How to Love Me and One in a Million.
Oh yeah.
And
Larry Graham, I think it was.
Larry Graham and all that stuff of the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't into it, so they let me go.
Really?
I got fired. Yeah, I got fired. I didn't want to do it anymore.
Now you were 14 at the time.
I was 16 at the time.
Oh, 16. Okay.
I was 16 at the time, and it's like I don't want to play this music. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not in my heart. I mean, I like to listen to it at the time because that's what everybody was listening to. My friends, Yeah. But my thing was jazz music. My thing was straight ahead jazz, big band. I love that, and swing. And then, so I was with the Ray Abrams, Hank Dowdy big band. I was doing that. And then a friend of mine was telling me that Long Island University was offering half performance scholarships. She said, why don't you go down and audition for Peter Yellen? Peter Yellen was a great alto and tenor saxophone player who played on Buddy Rich's band. Well, he was one of the professors, the music instructors down in LIU. So I went down, I auditioned, I passed the audition, and I got half scholarship to go to school. And everything helps, right?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, did you go to Berkeley or anything especially over there?
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that because me and a childhood friend, he's a great keyboard player. Mm-hmm. We would get together and play like Chick Corea tunes and fusion tunes, jazz fusion tunes, and jazz at the time. We would get together and he and I would play. We'd find a bass player and we would play. And we always talk about, man, we're going to go to Berkeley. We got to go to Berkeley. We were going to go to Berkeley together. And I never went to Berkeley because, number one, my parents couldn't afford it. And that was it. So I got this half scholarship and I went to school in Brooklyn. I went to Long Island University in Brooklyn. And part of the curriculum that was mandated is that you had to take private instruction. So I studied with Keith Copeland, who was a student of the great Alan Dawson. And I got to tell you, that was a real eye-opening situation for me because Keith didn't mess around. He was a nice guy until you come to the lesson unprepared. Yeah. He would tell you about it. Okay.
You took it that serious.
Oh man, you had to be serious about it. I mean, royally. I mean, he kicked your butt royally, And so he took me through the Charlie Wilcoxon book, All American Drummer. We also studied out of his book, Creative Coordination, that he wrote. It was an excellent book. I still have that book. I still use it from time to time. And then also the Ted Reed Syncopation, which is the drummer's Bible.
Okay.
And he took me through that. And that was quite an eye-opening experience because of the different methods that you can use that book and those exercises on drum kit for reading and coordination. So that was a total different experience than studying with, say, Terry Civilite from Drummers Collective. But it was great to study with Keith. He showed me a lot. He pushed me. he really pushed, he pushed me, and it was a great experience. Then soon after that, I was doing a concert in Brooklyn at this church, this huge cathedral, ran like a jazz vespers or whatever, jazz concert that they were having. Then I was playing with the big band, Hank Dowdy, Ray Abrams, big band. Okay. A friend of mine, Bob Trowers, trombone player at the time, was playing on Lionel Hampton's band. And he came up to me and he says, "Hey man, you sure sound great." And I said, "Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that." Because we used to play in Ray Abrams' band. He was a trombone player in the trombone section. So he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I think there's going to be a change in the drum chair in the Lionel Hampton band." I said, "Really?" He said, "Would you like to audition?" I'm like, "Lionel Hampton? Yeah, I'd like to audition for Lionel Hampton's band." Oh my gosh, this is a moment for me, man. This is going to be a total game-changing moment. What an opportunity. Yeah. So he set up the audition for me, and I got to tell you, man, for those 2 weeks, I try to snatch up every Lionel Hampton recording I can. I mean, I was taking records from my grandmother's collection, and I was like, I gotta have these records, man. I gotta, and I'm going to record shops and I'm trying to track down everything.
And you probably had a stack of records about this because you got to, back then there was no cell phones. You couldn't listen to all this stuff on YouTube. There was none of that. You probably had a stack of records, and hopefully none of them scratched.
Right. Exactly. That's right.
On a cassette tape,
Oh yeah, that's right. Cassette tapes or reel to reel or what have you back then. Yeah. Eight track tapes. Remember those?
Hopefully. I remember that one. Yeah, hopefully those records didn't scratch. That the ones that you had to learn.
Right, right. Well, I still have a lot of those scratched albums.
Okay.
Anyway, so came time for me to go down to Carroll Studios, 41st Street, 8th Avenue, Manhattan. I went down to do the audition.
Yeah.
And
were you nervous?
Oh, I was nervous. I was very nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm 21. How old was I? I was 21 years old at the time. No, was I 20? I was 20 or 21, something like that. I was young.
Yeah.
And I was 21 when I finally joined the band. And so I think I was like 20 years old. So I met Lionel Hampton, my friend Bob Trowers. He introduced me to Lionel Hampton. And he said, "Okay." He said, "Okay, Gates." Well, that's how he talked. "Okay, well, I want to hear you swing one, okay, huh?"
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." So I'm on the sideline sitting down, and the band's like rehearsing, and the drummer at the time was having a problem playing reggae, and because the bass trombone player did some writing and arranging for Lionel Hampton. We called him Gates. He called everybody Gates, by the way. That's the nickname that Louis Armstrong gave Lionel Hampton, because Lionel Hampton played drums for Louis Armstrong. Lionel Hampton was a drummer first, and then he played xylophone. He studied xylophone, vibraphone, but he played drums for Louis Armstrong, for those of you who don't know this. And so, Gates told me, he says, "Yeah, Louis Armstrong really liked the way I played drums." And I asked him, "Well, how did the name Gates come about?" He says, "Well, I was swinging really hard on the drums, and he came around. He said, 'Swing on gate, swing on gate,' swinging like a gate." So that's where that came from, Yeah. And so the drummer was having a real hard time with this reggae chart, and so he turned to me and he said, "Hey, Gates, you know anything about playing reggae?" And I said, "Sure, I know how to play reggae," because at the time my mom had remarried a man from Jamaica, from Kingston. And he would bring these 45s of these weird, obscure groups that I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
And he would put the records on our stereo, and he would be playing this like early ska, and early reggae stuff. Yeah. And I thought it was funny, so I would listen to it and try to mimic it. And I guess it happened by osmosis. So I said, "Yeah, I know how to play reggae." And so I got through the chart, and so you could hear a pin drop in the room.
Wow.
And so Gates said, "Okay, let's pull up number whatever it was," and he pulled up a chart called Cherokee, which was a straight ahead swing big band chart that was arranged by Ernie Wilkins. Okay. And I played the chart, and at the end of it, it had like this 8-bar drum solo. Right? So I got through it. I said, okay, pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
So then after that, you can still hear a pin drop. Everybody's looking around the room at each other like, uh-oh, something's going to happen here. So, and I could see like guys are like chuckling, going, looking at each other like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Let's see what this guy's going to do now.
Right. So anyway, I took my stick bag, zipped it up, went over to Mr. Hampton. I said, Mr. Hampton, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for letting me sit in with your great band. It was a great opportunity. And he goes, whoa, wait a minute, Gate. He said, hey, where'd you learn how to swing like that? I said, I don't know. I guess practice, I guess. He goes, hey, practice. That's a good one. And he said it just like that to me. And then he said, hey, we're going to go to Germany in the spring, but I want you to play in the band. And I said, that's okay. I said, I would love to play in the band. I would love it.
Yeah.
I said, I have to finish school though. I mean, I've got to finish.
You were what, 20, 21, somewhere around in there?
By the time I joined the band, I was 21.
Okay.
So I think I was 20 years old, then, I was 20 years old.
Wow.
When I went to audition, and I was 21, excuse me. I was 21 when I joined the band. So it was, I said, yes, I would love to join the band. I would love to play with you. And it was July of 1986. I was on a bus bound to Chicago with the Lionel Hampton Band.
Wow.
So that's how it started. And out of that gig, I played with guys like, I played with Dizzy Gillespie.
Okay.
I got a chance to do a recording with the great trombone player, Benny Powell. I got a chance to also tour with the great another trombone player, Al Gray. Harry Connick, believe it or not, Jr. was in the band when I was in the band.
Yeah.
We played together. I got a chance to play with Freddie Hubbard at the Moscow, Idaho Jazz Fest, Lionel Hampton School of Music. Got a chance to play with Freddie Hubbard. Got a chance to play with Dave Holland, and I got to sit in with the Count Basie Orchestra when Frank Foster was leading the band because Duffy Jackson was late getting to the set. This was in Nice, France. So I got a chance to sit in with the band, and I got to know Frank Foster. Great man. Great. I mean, a legendary musician, great arranger, great writer. I got a chance to play with guys like Paquito de Rivera and Art Farmer and Benny Bailey, great trumpet player, Dee Dee Bridgewater.
Now the guy that you replaced.
Yes.
When you were 18, they told you to come in and sit in for him. What happened to that drummer?
Oh, you mean with the Hank Dowdy Ray Abrams?
Yeah, because I mean, it's like I'm pretty sure he was bumming, knowing that you replaced him. I mean, so you were basically sitting in, but did you finally get that gig? Like, or was he? Did he ever come back?
He was a nice guy. I got to talk to him. I remember him. He was a nice guy, but that's funny because after that,
Oh, I think your audio went out.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We didn't hear from him anymore, and I think it was a total God thing, Corey.
Yeah.
When you ask me about a situation like that, and I look back on it now, I think it was definitely the Lord opening up a door for me.
Yeah.
At the time, because he knew what my passion was and my love for music, and he gave me the gift, and I'm pretty sure that the gift that he gave me, he wanted me to utilize it, not knowing it at the time because I really didn't have a relationship with him then.
Yeah.
Not knowing that, but I think he wanted me to experience that, and that was a gift that he gave me. You know what I mean? Because my grandmother was a strong believer, and she would always tell me, say your prayers, you know.
Yeah.
And but I think God was the one that opened that opportunity for me, the door. The same thing with the Lionel Hampton thing.
Yeah.
He opened that door, which I took for granted. I really did. I took for granted, and it was a great experience because I was in the midst of everything, all of it. I was in the midst of all the people that I've listened to on record and played to on record. You know, Illinois Jacquet and Bob Crenshaw, Hank Jones, Dizzy Gillespie, Candido, who else? Art Farmer, Benny Bailey, all these great musicians that I've listened to and played to their records. And here I am, I'm experiencing playing with these giants. And I'm like this young guy, you know, Slam Stewart. You know, I even played a jam session with Kenny Garrett. That was amazing. I didn't even know who Kenny Garrett was at the moment. All I knew was this guy was playing his butt off, alto sax, and I had no idea. You know, Wynton Marsalis. You know, Wynton Marsalis paid me a really nice compliment. I thought that was great of him to do that.
And it's not like you had like this household name where everybody wanted you. You were just there, and you know, somebody heard you, and hey, you want to sit in. You wasn't really well known at the time.
No, I was an up and coming drummer.
Exactly.
I was an up and coming drummer. You know, just trying to learn the instrument and you know, begging for the opportunity, a musical opportunity, to be able to exercise the things that I've learned and to be able to play with musicians. And you know, Buddy Rich said it's best. You only get better by playing, and to be able to level up your game is to play. You know, that's why during the COVID thing, it was bad because a lot of guys weren't playing. A lot of guys, you know, they were practicing, but you know, to play with other people is a whole nother ball game. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, I come down here and practice, but it's like, it's not the same. I mean, I have my band and stuff, but it's just not the same. You know, when you're playing with other people and playing different genres of music.
Right.
And sometimes you kind of have to work yourself up to practice, to get motivated to practice, you know, and it's like, you can practice in your head,
right?
You know, but then physically it's like,
yeah.
But once you're in it, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, next thing you know, it's like 2-3 hours have gone by.
Right.
And you're just sweating like crazy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, I know.
So that was all in New York, right?
That was all in New York.
So now, when did you make the transition from New York to California? Did your name started being out there to where people wanted you to record? And when did you start? When did you move to California?
That's funny. Boy.
Did you do LA? I'm sure you had to do LA, obviously.
Okay, let me tell you about LA. I started coming out here to the West Coast in 1986.
Okay.
I was with Lionel Hampton. We used to play Disneyland every August, the end of the summer. We used to play the old Carnation Garden stage. And I kind of liked it out here because I love the weather, and I'm like, ooh, palm trees and beaches are nice, and it's laid back and it's cool, and I love the weather, and this is cool, you know? So I met a lady, my first wife, at Disneyland. We fell in love, yada, 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 yada. We got married. The year was 1990. Got married. Got divorced 10 years after. Okay. So during that time in the 90s, being out here in LA was very, very, very tough. I had a friend of mine who played bass with me in Hamp's band because I got married and I had quit the gig. He begged me to stay in New York. He says, man, don't move to LA. He says, build your name up here first, because I was starting to do that. No, I was in love, so I decided, I wanted to move to California, and I was kind of coaxed by her father, right? So I came out and said, yeah, you'll find work, blah, 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 blah. It was tough. It was really tough because it was almost like East Coast, West Coast. People know you on the East Coast. That's great. But do people know you out here? It's like, you better get in line.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
And the line starts down in San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The line starts down in San Diego, man.
Yeah. Everything from San Diego to San Francisco.
Yeah. Get in line. The line starts in San Diego.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a struggle. It was I had that the 90s for me were happy yet but dark times too for me, And in 90 93, 94, was it 94? It was either 94, 93. I think it was 93. I gave my life to the Lord.
Okay.
And then that's when the spiritual battle really started. So I had some dark times there. I tried my hand at teaching. That's when I was toying around the idea of building drums.
Yeah.
I started teaching a little bit. But it was a very dark period for me then because it was a struggle. It was a struggle to in order to make a living as a musician out here. It was a struggle. I mean, I tried to go to all kinds of jam sessions to network, and it was a struggle.
You still in the jazz though, right?
Yeah, I was still into jazz. Okay. I mean, I had played other music and tried my hand at other styles of music, and I had gigs here and there, but it was nothing to really write home about, And so I struggled. And when I first came into town, I got the recommendation upon Jeff Hamilton's recommendation to Bill Holman's band to sit in and play in Bill Holman's band. Oh my gosh, that was a big mistake for me because I had just gotten off the road with Lionel Hampton, and my reading chops had gone down in the toilet. So doing Bill Holman's band, doing a band like Bill Holman's band, your reading has got to be, in shape. Your reading chops have better be together. Otherwise, you're gonna it's either sink or swim, and you're gonna have some issues. So
crash and burn,
right? So that was kind of a bad situation for me, and that was a big eye opener too. That was a big wake up call. And so moving to LA and realizing, LA, you got to read, man. Coming into LA is a reading town.
See, I would think opposite. I would think New York would be more than LA because here it was at least especially back then, you either had rap, mellow, or pop.
Yeah.
And I would think back in New York, based the fact that it was, of course they had rap too, but then you had more jazz.
Right. But still, when you say more jazz, if you get into a jazz project or independent original jazz project, and you got somebody that's writing out music, you've got to somehow learn or have the knowledge of knowing how to follow a chart. You know what I mean? Follow a melodic line. That's very important because that's a huge part of being a musician. A drummer, you're a musician. And Steve Gadd said that definitely reading does help. If you learn how to follow a chart and if you don't automatically get all the hits and syncopated figures, at least listen to it, play time, listen to it once and follow it and then listen and then come back to it and get all the hits and the stops and the breaks or what have you. You know what I mean? But it's important, man. That's why I advise guys coming up, young drummers to read. To me, it's important because a lot of my situations where I get into, whether it's doing a casual on some of these bands. They've got charts, man, and the leader's like, here's the drum book. It's like, okay, what do you want to play? You know, you got, and sometimes they have arrangements, so you gotta play what you see, what's written on the paper, and that's just the way it is in this town. Yeah, there are gigs where, you know, they're just calling tunes, which is great. It's fine, it's fun, but reading, you have to know how to read. It's important, it really is. And I'm, to this day, I wouldn't say that I'm the best sight reader in the world, because I'm not. I mean, I can read, but you know, when you know that's your weakness, that's the thing that you have to work on. You know what I mean?
Did you ever do any cruise ships? Because you know, with cruise ships, this requires a lot of reading as well.
Yes, because there's a lot of acts that have you have a house band, and then you have these acts that bring their music. So you gotta read the charts. Sure. I didn't do any cruise ships like that. I did one cruise ship which was on the Royal Viking Sky.
Okay.
And it was with Lionel Hampton, and I think we were the only featured jazz act on the whole cruise. We went through the Panama Canal. That was awesome, because my grandfather worked on the Panama Canal. He was from Barbados. So that was very special to me. We went through the Caribbean. That was awesome. We went to Cancun, which was awesome. That whole cruise was awesome. And it was amazing. I mean, it was great because that particular gig, you know, I got paid to travel, you might as well say. Paid to play music, paid to travel. And I think out of those 10 days that we were out to sea, I think we played like 4 nights out of those 10 days.
Wow.
It was amazing. But I got to tell you this, man, when I first got on that ship, you talk about getting seasick. Good Lord, man. Oh my gosh. It's all an experience, you know? An experience.
So when you moved out here,
you
were saying things were just kind of dark, and were you still kind of busy at the time, or did you kind of stop playing, or?
No, I kept practicing. I mean, I would get called for gigs, you know, but I had to take on other jobs to make ends meet.
Yeah.
You know, which was a drag for me, because I didn't want to do anything else but play drums.
Did I want to go to Vegas?
Vegas wasn't like at the forefront. I wasn't thinking Vegas. You know, I was thinking it was either going to be New York or LA. Nothing in between.
Okay.
No Nashville, no Dallas, no Houston, no Austin, no Portland, no Seattle, none of that.
Yeah.
I was going to either be New York or LA. You know, and if it wasn't going to be LA, then, you know, take my butt on back to New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I struggled. I made it work. I did some teaching. That was pretty rewarding until I got burnt out. I taught at a music store in Irvine called Jim's Music. They're now in Tustin. So
I've seen that before.
Yeah, I worked with them for a long time. Yeah, I had quite a number of students. You know, I taught like beginners and intermediate. That was my thing.
Yeah.
And you know, you teach the young kids. You know what I mean? Give them a good foundation. You know, teach them the rudiments.
Yeah.
Show them how to hold the sticks. You know, that kind of thing. Teach them how to read. You know, just give them a good foundation. So that's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to encourage and touch young lives, and to help mentor them if they choose to play drums. That was my thing. You know.
Yeah.
So I did that for a minute, and then I started getting busy. Started playing different gigs and different jazz things. Got involved with an artist, Edmund Velasco. We had a quintet together. We used to play a lot of gigs at this jazz place in Fullerton called Steamers. Played there a lot. Played a big band there on Monday nights. Played there, and then I started getting busy. Started doing like, you know, odd jobs here and casuals and some recordings here and there.
Yeah.
And started getting busy. I worked with the Tim Gill All Stars, and that was like a small big band, and we worked Disneyland a lot.
Yeah.
Then after that, I tried my hand, building drums. I built the Ford drum company.
Yeah, I want to get into that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because the Disneyland thing, how did that come about?
Well, the Disneyland thing was also a God thing. I was desperate in need of some type of playing gig that paid money, that was a steady income kind of thing. And I was discouraged by by Edmund, who's a dear friend of mine. He's like a brother to me. No, man, you're not gonna like working there. You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like it. I said, hey, right now I need a steady gig. I need a steady job. I mean, at least I'm playing drums.
Yeah.
So he told me, he says, okay, well, I'll set up an audition for you, but don't come back and to me, because I'm gonna tell you I told you so. I warned you. I said, okay, don't worry about it. And 24 years later, I'm still there, man.
See, I can tell you got that New York accent. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it comes out, man. I know. It comes out. Yeah.
I love it. Don't worry about it.
You could take the
forget about it.
Yeah, you could take the boy out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the boy, or something like that.
I love it, man.
Or the man out of the city, or the city out of the man.
Yeah. You can take the person out of the country or city or whatever, but the city will always be in you. Yeah.
You can take a New Yorker out of New York. You can never take the New York out of a New Yorker.
Yeah.
How's that? Yeah. There you go. It does come out, and when I go back east to New York and I'm with my friends, it does come out. The accent does come out. Yeah.
I can hear it, man. Totally, forget about it. That's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can do some movies, some one of those voiceovers or something,
Yeah, for a New York mafia movie or something. Yeah.
So once you got into the Disneyland thing, you were there. Because the guy said you're gonna be disappointed, you won't like it, but you end up liking it, right?
Well, because it's a different thing as opposed to be an independent freelance musician.
Okay.
Because now you actually have to be accountable and responsible to be on time. Man, you better be on time. That's a big thing. And you better show up. Attendance, you better show up. I mean, you're working for a corporation, and they don't play around. It's a totally different thing. And I was not used to that. I was totally not used to that. And a lot of times, I would show up late, and believe me, my lead at the time would tell me about it. He told me, and I appreciate him telling me this and kind of schooling me on this and telling me about the place where we are employed. Either you get it together or they're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of survival at the time. It's like, I got to survive and I need this job. Even though, I'm going into work playing drums every day, but there's
still some discipline there.
Well, there's some discipline there, and there's a regiment. There's a discipline. There's a schedule. Freelance musicians, you be on time to the gig, you better be, but the schedule is very here nor there. I mean, now you're having to get up at a certain time, you got to be there a certain time, you got to be dressed and ready a certain time, you got to be on time.
Plus, you're under contract too, right?
You're under contract with the union, Local 7, Santa Ana, right down the street from you, Main Street.
Yeah.
And so it was a different world for me. But as soon as I made it part of my routine and understood the ins and outs of what the company was about, what they expected from you, it was like, okay, this is what it is. And either you embrace it or you don't. Mm-hmm. So I chose to embrace it because at the time I was struggling to live, just to survive and to live and to be responsible and pay bills and so forth, the car payment and, have a roof over your head and this, that, and the other.
And this is in the 90s, right?
This was in the 90s.
Okay.
I was having some marital problems.
Mm.
It was a tough time for me. And so I got through those tough times, and I started part-time. I was a part-time regular at Disney, and that was a total blessing with benefits, which was a total blessing.
Wow.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
So again, that was a God thing, Corey.
Yeah. Especially playing music, man. I mean,
yeah,
that's like
playing music in this industry, as you know.
Yeah.
and as I get older, it is what you make of it. If you grab the opportunity and don't take it for granted, it's a hard industry. It really is. It's so much as networking. It's like who
Yeah.
and yes, there are certain cliques in this industry, in the music scene. There's cliques.
Yeah.
There is. I mean, for somebody to say that there isn't, there is,
Yeah.
And but you try to be the best that you could be, practice your craft, be the best Corey you could be. I could be the best Jimmy I could be, and learn as much as you can about the instrument and have fun with it. Roy Burns said, have fun with it. That's the reason why we got into music, was because it was fun and we had a passion for it and we were serious about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when you started to, because you talked about your faith a lot, how did all that happen? Like what was said to you that I need God in my life? I need, even though at the time, like you said, you didn't have a relationship with him in the early days.
Yeah.
But I think as you got older, you started to realize who God was. When did all that happen?
Well, it was when in the 90s he had to take a 2x4 upside my head and say, okay, hello, it's time for you to get serious with me. It's time to wake up. It's time to realize that, I'm calling you. I am calling you because the situation that you're in, it's not good for you. It's not good for you. I found myself in a situation where it was like, okay, God, you have my attention now. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? How I need you in my life. I need to make changes in my life. I need to make you priority. And that's what it took. It took me getting into some trouble in order to realize
the rock bottom situation.
My marriage was on the fritz. Everything that was going on at that time, making poor decisions, making stupid choices, just being a pure bonehead, about stuff and doing stupid things. And that's God got my attention. He literally took that 2x4 that he has, because he will discipline you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he will continue to discipline you. He does. Yeah. He does that. And he had to do that with me. And I had to finally realize that, man, my life without him was a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Hebrews 12:7 talks about that. God discipline those who he loves,
Exactly.
And it's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he just brought you out of that pit, and what happened next? You just
what happened next was
somebody shared a gospel with you about, because I know you go to a Jewish church, and I know you and Jesus is, it depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to Jewish, it's Jesus. If you're talking to Jewish people, it's Yeshua.
Right.
So, but what I'm.
Jewish believers, Messianic believers, because the Jewish people who generally they don't believe in Messiah. They don't believe in Yeshua. They don't believe that he was God. They don't believe he was the Son of God. They don't believe that. But as Christians, if you want to say Christians, they believe that Jesus. I don't like the name Jesus. I like Yeshua better, because that's his name. I don't know why, but I just do. I just do. I just do. And that's what it is. And I mean, forgive me, folks out there. I don't mean to offend, but that's just the way it is. It was, going to church. I was going to church, and I knew about church, and I knew about scripture, and I was a believer, yes, but I didn't make the choice to have him in my life, completely in my life, in my heart, in my life, make him priority. I always sat on the fence with that. I was fence sitting, thinking, yeah, I'll get by, but I knew right from wrong. And the right thing for me to do was to make that decision for Messiah. That was the right thing to do, and I went ahead and I got immersed, and I went through all that. And then that's when the spiritual battle began still.
Yeah. And
it took me through a lot, a divorce eventually, the aches and pains of that. And I went through a lot. It was really tough. And I had to grow. That was the problem, was I had to grow, and I'm still continuing to grow, and right now I still continue to grow, which is important. And a friend of mine, as I was going through that sort of dark depression time, a friend of mine said, "Hey man, why don't you come be a part of our congregation?" It was Baraka Church, Pastor Colonel Bob Thiem, and I went to this afternoon church at the Courtyard Marriott. They met in a conference room, and we had a live feed, and we would listen from Houston. I think the church was from Baraka Church, Houston, and we would listen to the Colonel. And the Colonel, if you look at Bob Thiem, in fact, Larry Feldman knows who Bob Thiem is, because they went to Dallas. No, it's Dallas. They went to Dallas seminary together. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to Colonel Thiem's teachings, and at first it all went over my head. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? It's going over my head. It was his approach that I couldn't understand, until finally the friend who introduced me to it gave me these box of tapes. And at the time, the car that I had a cassette player. So I had those tapes, and I would throw those tapes in, and I would listen to Colonel Thiem's teachings. Light bulb went on, and it was on from then on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally get it. Yeah. So now when I listen to, if I'm home and I'm checking out the live stream of Shuba and listening to Larry, I get it. I get it now. I totally get it. And you know something? It's so simple.
Yeah.
It is so simple, because it's a gift. It's a gift. It's what Yeshua did on that cross for us.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
It is.
It's so simple, because he does give us eternal life. If you choose to follow him, pick up your cross and you choose to follow him, and you study Bible doctrine, which sometimes I'm laxed in because I have other distractions like the drums. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But who's perfect, right?
Yeah,
who's perfect?
Exactly. We all have those relaxed.
Yeah. I mean,
or other things that,
right.
I'll read my Bible later.
Yeah. But we all come short of the glory of God. Yeah. And we've all been lax that way, but we are still saved by grace. And I think once you're saved, that's it. You're saved.
Yeah, it never snatch you out.
but with that being said, I finally got it because I was listening to those tapes. So that was my Bible study. That I would call that my mobile Bible study that I was doing, listening to those tapes of the Colonel. And to this day, I meet Tuesday nights with the men's Bible study, listening to the Colonel, listening to all his teachings throughout the years, because they're all recorded. And, it's been a good thing. It's been a really, really good thing.
How did you end up going to Shuba? Did somebody invite you, or you just how did you end up on the worship team there? How did all that happen?
Well, my wife and I were going to East Whittier Friends Church in Whittier, where she grew up and where we got married. And we were going there for a while. And then one afternoon coming back from church, she said, honey, I think I want to check out Shuba. I said, what's that? And she told me, she says, it's a Messianic congregation. I said, what's that? So she told me. and
this Italian accent, what's that?
Yeah. Yeah, what's that?
What is that?
What is that? And she told me, and she said, would you like to go with me? I would love to go.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, let's go check that out. All right, let's go check that out. We went, it was a Saturday. And I was like, yeah, because the Sabbath is Saturday. It's not Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a Saturday at 10 a.m. We get there. And she had gone before. She knew about it. She was going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she was trying to find her Jewish roots.
Gotcha.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
And we went. And as soon as we stepped in and we saw the dancing and we heard the music, and I scoped out the scene, and then what really sealed it for me was Larry's message and his teaching. And that thing that he did about the believer with the non-believers and the bubble with the non-believers and the bubble with the believers. That analogy, that was the same teaching method as Pastor Colonel Bob Thien. And I said, oh my gosh, I recognize that.
Yeah.
And then I turned to Fori and I said, I think we're home. I really think we're home. So then she knew Larry, and Larry remembered her, and she introduced me to Larry. She said, this is my husband, Jimmy. He's a drummer. He's played with Lionel Hampton and Dizzy Gillespie, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, let's get him involved in playing in the worship team. Let's get him involved.
Yeah.
So I got involved, and this was when Matt Davis.
Okay.
Matt Davis was worship leading. And Greg was still playing drums, and Greg at the time was like, yeah, I would like to take a break from time to time. And I thought Greg was doing a wonderful job, does a wonderful job, And so I think we had a rehearsal or something for the service coming up. And he gave me, song list of stuff to listen to, blah, blah, blah. We're going through the songs, and I was, doing what I normally do, my interpretation of the songs.
Yeah, yeah.
And I played something, and Matt looked at me, he says, that was cute. So I didn't know how to take that. Was that a compliment or was it a backhanded compliment? Did you like that? I mean, but he liked that. And I think it was him getting used to my approach and my feel to everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then soon after, Matt left, and then that's when we got Steve Wiggins in. And Steve and I, we really connected. I don't know why, but somehow on that level, because, he was Big Tent Revival and Calvary, and, we like the same music, listen to the same music, the same appreciation for jazz music and so forth. And I love what he did with Calvary, and we just connected, and it was awesome. It was awesome. And I played for quite a while, and it was all dependent on my schedule. With Disney, because at the time I was working part-time, and, my call time would be like, 1:15, 1:45. So I had plenty of time to jet from Shuba. If I had to leave right after the last tune, I would either tell Dave Little to hold on to my stuff, or Corey to grab my cymbals, my snare, what have you, or whatever. And I was totally active, involved in that.
Yeah.
And then later on, I became less and less involved. And I played a few times with Jim White when Jim and Amy came through. So I played a little bit with them. It was greay.
I think that's
really,
when we met. Right when they came in. Yeah.
Right when they came in. That's right. That's when we met. And then my schedule changed with Disney, and then my gig schedule started to change, and I started working all these gigs. Like I was doing all these different swing things and working late at night at these swing events, and I'd be working like a late night Friday night gig and not getting home till like 2 a.m., getting home at 3 a.m. And to get up at 7 o'clock and be at Shuva at 8 o'clock would be disastrous for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it anymore because of my schedule, and I miss that. I really do. But that's how that all happened.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I know. When I saw you a couple of weeks ago, man, it was great seeing you.
It was great seeing you too.
You just had surgery, right? You had something going on with your leg.
Well, not yet. That's coming up. That's coming up Friday. That's coming up Friday. Friday, I go in to see the orthopedics.
Okay.
And hopefully they'll get me in soon enough before we do go back to Disney to get this knee repaired.
So they haven't started with the musicians yet, going back yet, even though
not yet. Okay. Not yet. My assumption would be probably summer.
Okay.
I'm thinking right now. I think Disney is trying to get a foothold on everything, and to see how they can manage the foot traffic that comes in and out of there, and working with the different protocols that they have to adhere to, for the CDC and the state, whatever that means.
For everybody,
yeah. If you want to order food, you have to do it per an app that you have to download, and then you have to eat in a designated food area. You can't go wandering around, sipping on a Coke and eating a pretzel.
Yeah.
Which to me, I don't understand that thinking, that way of thinking.
I know, you're outdoors. It kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand that concept. I mean, you're having a hot dog or a pretzel or cotton candy or candy apple on a stick. You're drinking a Coke. Or whatever it is that you eat at the park. Corn dog. I love the corn dogs. Corn dog. And you're out and about and you're going to the next attraction. Yeah. I just don't get it. You know what I mean? I don't understand that concept. Where are they coming up with all this? I mean, that's just me. Anyway,
So what as we close up here, what encouragement would you give to musicians out there who, like you said earlier, who want to do it for a career? Maybe they do know how to read, maybe they don't. Maybe they're just naturally just gifted with, just playing like you were at 3. What encouragement would you give? And another quick question for you too. What do you think about the technology today with the programs that are being used? And, people saying, well, I'm a producer because, they create all these. Are you familiar? Are you into all that stuff now, the current music thing now, and what everybody's using to create music? Or are you just this old school going into a rehearsal room and just banging it out, with creativity? That's a 2-part question.
Well, if you're a musician and you play an instrument, play your instrument. Yeah, I'm sure it's nice to know all the new technical stuff, the new technology that's out, But, that stuff began in like the 80s where, you had drum machines and sequencers and all that were putting us out of work.
Yeah.
And guys like Harvey Mason, who are amazing percussionists, musicians, had to resort to learning how to program a drum machine. They're not actually playing their instrument. So, where's the artistry in that? Sitting behind a computer and pressing buttons.
Yeah, it's big. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in music.
What is that about? That's not about playing an instrument.
No.
I mean, I'm grateful for the guys that do that and learn all that. I mean, I've seen some amazing stuff, but it's like, man, let's get back to actually playing an instrument. Yeah, put it on. You can use all that for reference. Like I have a program on my computer that I use for just references.
Right.
If I have a beat in my head, so I won't forget. But sooner or later, I got to put it on drums.
You got to put it on.
I got to put it on the instruments.
Right.
And I'm learning some piano and all that kind of stuff. So.
Right.
I don't know. It's just maybe it's just different styles of genres. You can do that in pop and rap, but as the big picture, it does take away the real musicians that blood, sweat, and tears. Because I'm old school. Let's get together and let's just jam.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Me too. I'm all about that too. Whether it's playing pop, funk, rock, metal, jazz, whatever the case, you learn to play an instrument. That was your first thing that you did, was you learned to play an instrument. The reason why you got into the music industry was to play your instrument and try to make a living at it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, for special effects and stuff, that's great. Yeah, it's great to, that's great. But still, there's that puts so many great musicians out of work if you're going to use a machine to recreate that. Why?
I know.
Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby.
And that's something I want to, on my podcast, I kind of want to have some musicians to kind of chime in on that, man, but that's been one of my, it's nothing to take away from people who do that. It's just for those who have grown up just playing an instrument. Right. And then all of a sudden we got this because every time you watch a YouTube video, what's the commercial? Somebody's putting their beats and stuff together, right, and selling it and stuff like that. And I'm going, man, come on, Right. So
exactly. Right, exactly. I believe in playing a musical instrument. If you have the gift, God's given you the gift to play an instrument, then play it, study it, learn and grow with it, and use it to your full potential.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good advice, man. So as far as somebody's searching for God, what would you say to that person, especially in these times that we're living in? We're living in some crazy times.
Amen.
The Bible predicts all this, but
amen.
What would you say for that person who's like struggling, needs hope, trying to find hope in alcohol or drugs or whatever, and they still can't find it? What would you say to that person who's searching?
I would tell them, does alcohol make you feel better? How does it make you feel after you've been on a drunken binge? How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like a new person? How does taking hard drugs make you feel? Does it make you feel, like a new person? How does that really make you feel? Does it make you feel good? Is that an avenue for you to see light at the end of the tunnel? Because to me, it looks like you're stuck. And as long as you're drinking and abusing, that's where you'll be, because that's where the enemy wants you to be. A person has to get to a point, like I had to, at the breaking point, at the bottom, rock bottom, to realize that there's a void that they're trying to fill. And that void is not God. That void is not Messiah. That void. So a person has to get to that point and they have to cry out. The same thing that what Israel is going through today. They're going through some really tough times. And it's going to take Israel to get on their hands and knees and cry out to God. And a lot of times that's what it takes, a person. A lot of people don't get to that point. A lot of people just keep carrying on and doing the things that they do. And there are some people that get to the point, the breaking point, where they can't take it anymore. and they shout out. And that's where you have to be. You have to get to that point. No matter where you are in life, that's where you have to be.
Yeah, that's so true, man, because
it is, yes, you can meet up with somebody and you can plant that seed and share the gospel with them. Sure, but it's what they do with that information. Yeah. It's whether or not they're there to receive it, hear it and receive it. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you get individuals that say, that you can make a difference in witnessing to them, and they will hear you and they will understand, and they're ready for it because God has prepared that situation to help them to go to the next step in their relationship.
He's already prepared their heart.
He's already prepared their heart. That's right.
And that's the thing. Sometimes, when I hear about all these shootings and stuff and all this, people say, well, programs, yeah, that might work, but it's a heart issue. God has to change a person's heart in order. No government, no program, it's a heart issue. And
right.
Until people realize that God has to change that person's heart. If they're racist or whatever, no program or nothing is going to solve that. God has to really change that person's heart.
That's right.
That's right. That's a whole nother topic, but
that's right.
You're so right, man. God can he can change somebody's heart from the inside
Amen.
to the out.
Amen. I implore people that are having a struggle with their spirituality. From my own personal experience, when I was struggling back in the 90s, that was the best decision I've made to do was to make Yeshua my personal Lord and Savior. That was the best decision I've made, because without him, I would be in so much trouble and so much turmoil, especially these days. What's going on in the world today, and in the industry too, man. You got to be careful in this industry. There's a lot of demonic stuff that goes on in this industry, man.
Yep.
You got to be careful. But my advice to people is it's not too late. Turn to God now, because we're living in days and times right now that He's going to be calling us up real soon. Just keep your eye on Israel. What's going on right now? There's a lot of stuff that's going on that's pointing to everything unfolding biblically, prophecy unfolding. And it's right around the corner. Yep. So we have to rejoice for that. Don't get nervous. Don't get scared. Don't be anxious, because that comes from the enemy.
Yeah.
But drummers out there, learn how to read, practice, work on your technique. Again, techniques on everything. Work on your time. Work on your groove. Techniques is just icing on the cake. Guys are going to hire you because you got good time. You play with good feel. You have good dynamics, and you play for the music. Play for the music. Don't be selfish. Play for the music. Man. Solo is like, when it's your time to get down and shine. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But when you're in a group situation or a recording situation, and you're in a musical project, your job is to make it feel good and make it as musical as possible. It's great to play drum solos. It's great to have fast hands. It's great to play fast technique, and all that stuff. It's great. And then also too, on top of that, try to find your voice. Try to find your voice. It's real important to do that. It's great to have influences, whoever it is, Buddy Rich, Neil Peart, Billy Cobham, David Garibaldi, Dave Weckl, whoever.
Jimmy Ford.
Well, I'm still trying to find my own voice, man. Sometimes in the morning I wake up and I can't find it. I'm hoarse.
So what I'm gonna do is put some your website. We didn't even get a chance to talk about your drum company that you build drums.
Yes. Well, real quick about that. I had 4 drums. 4 drums is still kind of going, but I've gone the opposite way. I'm doing mostly refurbished work. I do bearing edges. So
Okay.
those of you that need bearing edge work, I do those. If you need drums rewrapped, I do those. If you have a refurbished job where you need a drum that needs to be relacquered or veneered, I do that. I do custom orders from time to time.
Is there a website? Because
I have my personal website.
Okay.
It's jimmyfordlive.com. The reason why I couldn't get jimmyford.com because it was already taken. So
Okay.
I'm not the only one out there with the name Jimmy Ford.
Okay.
How about that? I thought I was the only one. I got people coming up to me. Is that really your name, Jimmy Ford? Yeah, that's really my name.
No relations to Lita Ford, you guys. So just to make that clear.
Or Robin Ford. Ricky Ford and I may be cousins, the great saxophone player.
Okay.
We talked about that. Ricky Ford. He also played with Lionel Hampton. But yeah, so with the drum thing, I'm doing that. I'm doing some drum repair work, bearing edges, that kind of thing. So I still have my hand in it. I have a workshop that I have here at home. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, it stopped for a minute. Yeah, so I have my workshop here at home, and I've got some drum projects that I'm doing right now. I'm doing a Gretsch kit that I'm refurbishing for a guy from the 60s and the 70s, the shells. And I do OEM work for DC, California.
You do all this yourself, right?
Yes, I do this all myself.
Wow.
I do this all myself. Sometimes I have a good friend who also has a drum company, Orbian. He's from Brazil. He'll come over and lend me a hand. I'll give him a call and say, hey, I need a hand. Can you help me out with this, blah, blah, blah. He'll come over and lend me a hand if I get backed up. But mostly, I'm not
brings in income.
Well, that's just it. I'm doing it kind of on the side. So that's what I'm doing. But that's what I'm doing. And I enjoy doing that. That's one of my passions.
Awesome, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, man, dude, we could talk for hours.
Yes, we can. We could talk about drum gear. We could talk about bearing edges for hours. We should do that.
Man, I tell you, we might have to do a part 2 someday,
Yeah, we should do that. We should talk about the structure of the anatomy of a drum shell, bearing edges. Yeah, we should do that. That'd be great.
Which is way over my head, It's like
nothing to it. It really is. It's nothing to it. If you study physics in school, you'd get it.
No, I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far with physics, man. Fractions was probably where I stopped,
Man,
Jimmy, man, it's been great talking to you, bro.
Thank you, Corey, for having me on. I had a blast. Thank you.
Yeah. Like I say, man, I got more shirts. So I got more shirts. So if you know anybody that needs a drum shirt,
everybody, get these shirts. They're great, and the logo is great. $20.
My friend Bones Markey designed that design. So
$20 right here. $20. There you go.
So yeah, tell the wife hello, man, and hopefully we'll see you at Schuber sometime in the near future.
All right, Corey. Thank you so much for the interview. It was a pleasure being on. And we'll see you soon.
We got the dog there. All right, I forgot his name.
Lily.
Okay, Lily.
Yep.
He's like, oh, come on, Dad's done.
Yep. All right, that's done. Time to snuggle. Okay.